and in this part we will talk about how you can create routing in Angular 2 application, and by using routing how you can go to multiple components, and if needed how you can pass a parameter to a route. First we will go to Google and search for Angular 2 routing, and after getting the search result we will go to the first link. In this first link, if you scroll little bit, you will see a lot of contents, and first one is routing import. So how you can import routing from the Angular core module. If you scroll little bit, you will see how you can define a route. So this is the routes from Angular module, and you declare multiple routes here. And to declare a route you need minimum two things. First one is the path. This is the /URL that you will put in the URL, and this is the component that would be displayed when you go to this path in your browser. And then we have to import the route definition in our module. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code, and to create routing in this application we will follow 4 steps. Number 1, we will create a separate file so that our route definition is nice and tidy in a separate file. We will just right click this app and then click new file. We will give it a name app.routes.ts, and then here we will import the route definition from Angular router. We will just type import from at angular/router, and we will bring routes here to declare the route for our application. And then we will export a constant, and the name would be app routes. This would be type of routes which we will define by a collection. In this collection we will define all the definition of the route. If you remember, we have created two components before. One was our circular component, another was search component. So what we will do, we will define path for these two components. The first one would be circular. We will say the path, and the path we will give circular, and then we will define the component. And to define the component we have to import the component to this file. We have done this for million times, so we will just import, and we will import circular component. We know where is the circular component. That's dot circular, and then we will go to circular component ts, and here obviously we will type circular component, and then we will add circular component here. So we have declared the first route for our application. If we type circular in the URL, it will come to this circular component. Since we are in the same place, we will create another route here that will go for the search. So the path would be search, and then we will go to the search component. So the component, we will import the search component same way we did imported the circular. We will import, and then from we will do search, and then search component, and here obviously we will type search component. And the last part is to define the search component here. So we are done with defining the component. The next step would be to import this component in our app.modules file. So we will save this guy, and we will open the app.modules.ts file. In this file, first we have to import the route definition. We'll import the app routes that we just declared. So we will just type here from, and we will import app.routes. It will come here, and the value we want to import is app routes. And if you remember the documents we have seen in the Angular2 website, we have to import the router module and then set the route definition for the route. So we will go back to the code. So we will import the router module from Angular library. So we will type import, and then from we will do at angular/router, and from the router we need the router module. So we will type router module. Then we will scroll down and we find the imports here. So we will do like router module, and in the router module we will say for root, because this we want to set for the root of our application, and we have to pass the router definition, and we already imported this before, that is app routes. Type comma, then we are set for app modules. So we are done with 3 steps. We created our app routes, we imported the router module, and we also imported the our routing definition and then set it. We will save this guy. To know about the last step, we have to go to the documents once again, and in the document, if you scroll little down, you will see that router outlet, so that Angular 2 knows that where it should display the component. This part will make more sense when we are done with this. Let's go to the Visual Studio Code, and this time we will go to the app.component.html. This is the landing component where we have two tags. The first one is the h1, the title, and second one is the search component. If we go to the browser, open our website, you will see this is the h1, the title, and this part come from the search component. What we want to do, we want to keep this title constant in every route, and we want to vary this part. So if we go to the circular path, we want circular component to be displayed here, and if we go to the search, we want to display the search component here. And to do this, we have to just change this one. So if we remove this guy, you will see only the title of the website. And here we will add the last part of the routing task. We will add router outlet here. This would be the outlet where all the component would be displayed, and we will close this tag. So now we will go to the browser, and if we come here and type slash circular, we should see the circular component below it. If you remember correctly, this is the circular component, and this comes from your parent component, the title. And if we change the route to search, so we will just change the circular to search, and if we press enter, you will see the search component getting displayed, and all the functionalities should hold here. For example, if we type single here and search, we will get the search single result here as well. So to do the basic routing, we did 4 steps. First, we create the route definition here, where we declared what would be our defined route, and then we go to the app.modules, and then we imported the route definition, as well as we imported the routing module from Angular core, and then we imported and said that you should use this route definition at the root of this application. And the last part we did, we went to the app components and defined where this would be displayed. Now we want to implement the route parameter. What the route parameter will do? It will do based on the click, it will display detailed information about the user. And if you click on this, it will go to the same component but taking a separate parameter. So to do route with parameter, we will first declare a component where we will display this user information. So we will go to our command line. We will stop it by pressing Ctrl C, and we will create a component, ngg component, and we will give it a name as a user component. So after creating this component, we will go to our route definition, and in the route definition, we will import the user component. It would be from user and then user component, and we will definitely import the user component here. And while we will be creating this path, we will have to declare that what would be the variable name of the route parameter. So first we will do as usual, create a path. In this path declaration, we will first tell this is the user path, and then we will add a path parameter. And to do this, we will just add colon and then name of the parameter, and we will give it a name as like user ID. So whenever Angular says that you have a route with user slash something, it will consider that something as a route, and then you have to tell that which component you want to go as usual. So this is user, we will definitely go to the user component. So the setting part is done. Let's visit the UI to see how we want to make it working. And in the UI, you see this is the login name. We want to convert this text to a button so that if you click on this, it goes to the new path. And all these cards exist in our search component. So we will go to the search component, and inside the search component in the HTML file, we have text, and this is the user.login information. What we will do, we will convert it to a button. In Angular material, you can define a button multiple ways. What we will do, we will simply create an anchor, and for this anchor, we will get rid of this href, add an special attribute of material design, which is MD, and then raised button. Inside the anchor, we will use the same binding we used, which was user.login. We will save this guy and then go to the command line API, and to start our application as usual we will do ng serve. When this is done, we will go to the browser, and if we search again, then we will see that all this changed to a raise button. If you click this, you will get a material design effect here, but it doesn't go anywhere. To make it going to the user component with this parameter, we have to do two more things. First, we have to create a click handler in this anchor. So to add a click handler, we will go to the search component.ts. Here we have to do four things. First, we have to create a method. We will give it a name, show user detail, and we will take a input parameter as user. And after creation of this method, next step is to import router from Angular. So we will do as usual import from at Angular slash router, and we will import here is router. And when we have this router here, third step, we have to create a property. To add a property in this component, we will make it private, and then we will give it a name router with a smaller r, and then we will define the type would be router, and we'll put a comma. We'll have a router property that represents router from Angular library. The fourth step is to read this property and then tell it to navigate, which will be this dot router dot navigate, and this navigate method takes an array which contains different parts of the route. Since we want the user to go to the user route, our first part of this array would be user, and second part would be the variable based on the current user. So we will type user.login. The last part we will do, we will go to the HTML and then add a click handler here. So what we will do, we will as usual type click. This would be the name of the event, and then we will type show user detail, and this user detail will take an input parameter of user. We are passing the user so that whenever you are clicking on this button, the current user of this card is passed to this show user detail method, and inside the user detail method you will read the user.login that would be passed as a user ID to the user component. So if we have done this correctly, we will go to the browser and test up to this part. So we will go to the browser and search for lazy people in GitHub, and whenever we find all these lazy people, we will click on this. This should take us to the user route with this part as in the URL. So if we click on this, you will see the URL changed to user slash lazy whatever the name is, and it comes to the user works. That means the routing with parameter is working for us, but to make it complete, we should load detailed information of this user based on the route parameter, and this is user component. So to load the user information based on the route, we have to go back to the user component and do some work over there. Let's find the user component, which is here, and we will go to the user.component.ts. And first part we need to do here is to read the parameter from the component that exists in the router. And to do that, we have to import stuff from the Angular library. So we will do from, and this would be at Angular slash router. And from there, we will import active route. The reason we want to import active route, because we want to know the current activated route information. And next step is to create a private property in the constructor. So we'll make this private and we'll give it a name active route with lowercase a, and then type would be active route. So inside this ng on it, we would like to read the current route parameter, and then we would like to set it to a constant named user ID so that we can fetch data based on the user ID, and the value of user ID would be this dot active route. To get the snapshot of the route, it is snapshot, not Snapchat. Don't get excited about Snapchat. This is snapshot, and in the snapshot we will get the params, and these params takes a parameter. So we will give the name of the parameter we have passed. If you remember the route definition, we have passed a parameter named user ID, and if you have done correctly, this should get the user ID from the route. To make sure it works so far correctly, we will do a console log, and inside the console log we will just log user ID to make sure we are getting it. So we'll save this guy, and in the browser, so we'll go to the search, and this time we will look for dump people. From the dump people, we will select this dump trackman, and if we click on this, it comes to the user dump trackman. And to check that we get the user ID correctly, we will go to the dev tool, and inside the console tab, we already have the dump trackman as a parameter. So we got the parameter correctly, and the next step is to load data from the server by using this user ID. To do this, we will go back to our old buddy GitHub where we created a service. We will open the service, and here we will create a new method, and that would be get user detail, and this user detail will take a parameter of user ID. We will add the return little later, and we will have a constant URL, and this URL, I remembered it, this is https and then api.github.com and then slash users. After users, you will just add the user ID. So we'll slash and then add user ID here, and this is the URL we need to do. And then we will make the HTTP call that we have done before, which is this dot http dot get, and we'll pass this URL. The next part would be a map, and inside map we will get the response from the server, and this response will be managed by this callback function, and inside this callback function we will create a constant called user, and the value of this user would be the response. Then we will convert this to JSON, and after this we will just return the user. And the next part is to return observable from this method, which we have done before. Type observable. Since we don't have a strongly typed class here yet, so we'll just type any so that we can pass anything. And the last part, we will just add return from here so that red squiggly line is gone. So we are done with setting our server call. Next part would be going back to our user component and call this service method from there. And to do so, first thing we will do, we will import the GitHub service here, and we have done this zillion times, and that would be GitHub and slash GitHub service, and from there we would like to import the GitHub service. After importing the GitHub service, our next step is to provide GitHub service to the component, and to do that we will add a provider in this metadata. So we'll type providers, and then we will pass the GitHub service. That's very simple. The next step would be create a private property in the constructor so that we can access methods in the GitHub service. We have done this before. We'll follow the same steps here. So we will type private, and then we will name it GitHub service, and the type of this GitHub service would be the GitHub service. That's very simple. We'll add a comma. This part is done. In the next part, we would like to make a call to the GitHub service. So we will type this dot GitHub service, and we will call the get user detail, and we will pass the parameter user ID that we have created before. And after this, we will do subscribe. Inside the subscribe, we will get a response, and to handle this response, we will create a callback function. And inside the callback function, we would like to set the response to a property of this component. So we will declare a public property named user where we will set the response. And to set it, we will just type this.user, and value of it would be the response. Before binding to the UI, we would like to know that what are the information we are getting so that it becomes easier. What are the information we would like to see in the UI? And we will do the console log here, and we would like to log this dot the user information. And we are done here. We'll save it, and when you go to the browser, if it's get loaded again, we will search for that dump people again, and from the dump people we will click on this dump trackman, and if we go to this user slash trackman route, and at the bottom we'll see that an object is logged. And if you would like to see what's the detailed information there, we will see there are company name, there are user email, and there is number of followers this person have, and there is a name, this is the logging, and bunch of other information about this user. Now we will go back to our Visual Studio Code, and this time we will go to the HTML, and here we will change the HTML little bit. First we will create a H1 that says user detail information, and below this we will create a div, and inside div h3 that would be binded to the username, so that would be user dot name, and below that maybe we'll put a paragraph tag that will provide the user email, so the email would be binded here, and that would be user dot email, and maybe below that we will tell that how many followers this person have, so we will create a small tag, and inside this we will type followers, and after that we will bind to user dot followers. We'll save this guy, and if we go to the browser, we see an error. And what does this error says? It says inline template error, and it says cannot read property name of undefined. The reason this is happening, at the beginning time when you are loading the page, you don't have user definition, because we set the value of user when we get the response back to the server. So to solve this problem, we will just type star ng if, and that's how we will tell, hey, just parse the below code when you have the value of user. We save this guy, and then we go to the browser. We see that the route currently is at the root. That's why you only see the hello Angolulu baby. And if we just go to the search route, you will see the search box, and then we search for dump, and we will get the result set as before. If we go to this drop trackman, we'll see the detailed user information, and this is the name, email, and 20 followers. To make sure this is working for the other cases, we will go back to the search once again. This time we will search for Jesus, and if we search the Jesus, we will get this looks like more Jesus. And if we go to this link, we see that this is the detailed information about Jesus, and Jesus has 173 followers, and these people might go to heaven. Rest of you might burn in hell. So we are done with part 4 of this tutorial. What we did, we created bunch of routes, and if we go to the route definition, which is app.routes.th, and you will see that we created 3 routes. One was circular, another was search, and the last one is using dynamic parameter based on the route,